Peace, and welcome to another special edition of Out the Box Talks. I am your host, Cril. I'm so excited to be here for another show. This is actually episode 70. I'm really excited about the sound of that, right? Because I just never thought, you never think like you get to episode 70, after doing this like consistently every week or every other week for the last 2 years. So I'm pretty happy about that. Uh, as always, we have some really dope talent that we bring to you every week, and this week is no different. I can't wait to really chop it up with these brothers that I'm gonna have as our guests today. But before I do that, I do want to, make some announcements. Want to let the viewers and the listeners know out there, first of all, thank y'all for tuning in to Out the Box regularly. But make sure to go to our website, outtheboxmedia.com. We got a lot of stuff going on there. We have our merch page, which is outtheboxmedia.bigcartel.com. We have our Patreon page, which you can find linked on the website as well, which is patreon.com/outtheboxmedia. And the Patreon page has exclusive interview clips that, unless you are a member or a Patreon subscriber, you won't have access to these clips, right? These are exclusive interview clips that no one has heard unless you are an actual Patreon subscriber or a member of Out the Box Media. Also, if you guys want to send in any donations, you can send it to paypal.me/outtheboxmedia, or you can send it to our Cash App, which is hashtag OutTheBoxRep. Any donation is much appreciated. It definitely takes some money to get Out the Box moving and to keep it moving. So, any donation you guys can send to help, support our movement, we really appreciate it. Also, remember that if you are tuning in right now via YouTube, you can also catch the audio podcast, right? Via platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Stitcher. Generally, where you listen to audio podcasts, you'll find the high quality audio podcast to these, shows that we do. So make sure you just search for Out the Box Talks. But everything is also on the website. All right. And last but not least, I do want to encourage everyone, watching this episode on YouTube to subscribe to the channel. It is so important that you subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell as well, so that you can be updated with all the new stuff that we have coming out, especially at the moment that it releases. That is really helpful, because we want to make sure we are building our Out the Box audience, right? I know there's a lot of people that view these shows and you love the way that these interviews are done. So if you can just hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, it will mean quite a lot. So I just wanted to get that out the way. All right. So again, we are here for episode 70. As I said earlier, we have two artists today that really represent hip hop in a very special way. I would say if there was a hip hop soundtrack to anime and video games, these two brothers would probably be the most prominent voices contributing to that music. So I want to talk to them about a lot today, specifically this new project that they have out called the Maverick Hunters, and just a little bit about their history as artists and how they've gotten to the place where they are today. So we're going to really chop it up. I hope that you guys stay with me for the full interview, because I think if you are fans of these artists, or even if you're just learning about them, you'll be intrigued by this interview. So I just want to go ahead with it. So without further ado, I want to welcome to our Out the Box Talks viewing and listening audience two Emcees hailing from man, I'm forgetting the actual location. I know it's Philly, and there's another location. Yeah, I messed up, but we gonna get that when we get them on. But they nevertheless they are MCs hailing from the United States, and they have been definitely doing their thing. And like I said, I'm just excited to bring them on the show tonight. So again, without further ado, I would like to welcome to the Out the Box Talks viewing and listening audience, my brothers, Noveliss and Mega Ran. Welcome to Out the Box.
Yo.
Welcome. How are you?
It's good to be here, man. I'm great. I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm awesome, man. I'm awesome. I'm so happy to have y'all on the platform. Let me just unmute Noveliss for a second. Yep. How you doing, brother Noveliss? I messed up, right? I messed up.
It's all good, man. Detroit, man. I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to be on the show, man.
Yes, man. It's a pleasure to have y'all here. Y'all got this new project out, the Maverick Hunters. I'm so excited to talk to y'all about that. But before we jump into that, I usually ask artists to just give a little insight on, how you guys individually got started with hip hop. Like, what made y'all want to pursue hip hop as a career? And either of you could go first.
Okay, I'll go then. Man, growing up in Philly, being like the little redheaded stepchild of New York City, we had close brushes with hip hop success out of Philadelphia, but most of the time it was always like cats in New York that would pop off. So honestly, I feel like, I liken it to kind of the same with comic books, where there was like a golden age and a silver age. So everybody kind of agrees hip hop's golden age was around 88 to like 91, 92. And if there was a second golden age, it was probably 93 to maybe 96 or so. And in that second golden age or silver age, I feel like that's when I was coming into my own as a boy, becoming a man, and picking out my own pants to wear, or picking out my own shirts to wear, and my own music to listen to. And I think that was the time for me. So 93, man, I liken it to I give all the credit to like Wu-Tang Clan, to like, Gang Starr, to like Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, like seeing all this cool stuff happen, and just wanting to be a part of it. So that was the times when I started writing my first rhymes. It was in middle school. Fast forward, I continued to write. I continued to freestyle. I played shows, but I was a full-time teacher. I went off to college and was teaching, and was always still writing rhymes and things. And then I feel like it just called me, back to it. So I just kept making music, kept chasing this, I guess, dream, and put out a record 10 years ago that kind of had some success, and it led to tours and some things. And from then it was like, all right, I'm gonna do this full time, and I'm gonna just try my luck at it. So haven't really looked back since, but it was 10 years ago, almost to like the day almost, because it was right around spring break time, which was like May. And I took off a spring break and never came back. And, that's just this. That's how it went for me.
Indeed, man. Thank you for sharing that. Go ahead, Noveliss.
Yeah, word, man. So kind of the same thing. Just I mean, I'm a little younger, so my time kind of really getting into hip hop was like the late 90s. But I did my homework always, right? Like so one thing I did, I always played ball. Like I played in high school, middle school, college, played in college as well. And what I did when I was in high school is I used to ref. My little job was I used to ref like little kid games, and then I would always get my money and I would go to Best Buy and I would always buy 2 CDs. And I had like a crazy CD collection, but somebody stole it when I was like a teenager. But so what I would do is I would buy albums based off of the cover, right? So I would just always go. So I was I kind of already had started off listening to some some obscure stuff. I was just buying rap albums based off what the covers looked like. So I was like really into Dilated Peoples and like Doom, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. Still Tribe, right? Like I remember seeing the Low End Theory album cover, and I thought it was one of the dopest looking album covers ever. And AT Aliens, like stuff like that. I was just buying stuff based off the cover. Then when I started, really getting into hip hop and like making my own stuff, I was in college. I'm in a group called Clear Soul Forces. We made a joint that kind of blew up called Get No Better. This is like what, 2012, 2013, I think. And we made a joint called Get No Better. And it just kind of blew up, man, like millions and millions of views. And we ended up, touring a lot. And then, I was still, at this time, I was still in school. I was in college. I was playing ball. So I was like going to practice, going to games, like leaving the country, touring, and coming back and going to class and stuff like that, when I was younger. And then when I got out of college, I graduated, still doing the thing in my group, started kind of exploring myself and doing some solo music. And then, I was working, right? I was a chef and I hated it. And then a couple years ago, like 2018, I think I dropped this project called Cerebral Apex, and I was and I got Mega Rans on there, and I dropped this project called Cerebral Apex, and it was doing really well, like better than anything I had ever done. And I was just getting really frustrated at work, and I was just like, what, like I had a goal. I was like, I'm gonna wait till I got about 10,000 saved up, and then I'm gonna quit my job. And I remember going to work, and I had just a really bad day, and I quit and I only had like 2,000 saved up. But I quit that day, and I ended up just by the universe just looking out, man. I ended up having like email just randomly going crazy with like people that wanted to book me and everything. So I ended up being all right, man. I haven't worked since 2018, and here we are living off rap.
Wow. I'm so glad you said that, because I wanted to ask you, like, how did you go from that 10,000 in your mind to 2,000 and then able to walk away? Like, what was those days right after you quit? Like how did you feel? Like, how did you even manage that mentality?
Yeah, it was very frustrating, but at the same time, like, sometimes you do just have to take a chance, man. Like, you don't want to be 40 and be like, I should have, I really should have just went after it and did it, or ever feel like it's too late to do stuff, which I don't believe it is ever too late to do something that you want to do. But, in this case, right, like I just really felt like I had to do something, and if it was something crazy, but it ended up working out. So, but I was, yes, the first couple months I was very stressed out.
When did you start seeing the benefits, though? When did you start seeing the results of like, oh man, I made the right decision because now the opportunities are coming?
Oh man, 2019 was just an amazing year for me. Because my group had just dropped, we just dropped an album, and then we dropped another one, and then I dropped a project, and then I toured, and then me and my group toured, and then we toured stateside, and then we toured in Europe, and 2019 was just like this busy year, like, and it was just going really good. And then COVID happened in 2020 and everything, but 2019 was when I really was like, I made the right decision, so.
Dope. Now, I forgot to mention in the intro, like, you guys have a huge body of work that's out. I mean, Mega Ran, you're going back to like what? I think 2008, when I looked at your Bandcamp, and Noveliss, you're like at least 2015. I mean, you guys have put out a lot of material, a lot of solo material as well. And I know it'll take a lot to go through all of that today, but if you guys had to just highlight your three most prominent accomplishments of what like you guys are best known for artistically prior to this Maverick Hunters album. What would you say for those that may not know? Like what it stands out in your catalog or as your artistry?
Okay. That's a good question. I'm big on collaborations, so I love to work with certain people. So there's kind of different phases in my career depending on like what producer I was working with or what MC I was working with or things like that. So things kind of started off for me in 2008 with the Mega Ran album, which was a Mega Man based hip hop record that like kind of popped off on the internet. People were like, "Oh shoot, it's Mega Man rap! Like, what is this?" And then Capcom got involved and like was dope enough to like license me to create this. And so they invited me to come out to Comic-Con and they were like, "Oh, you got to come out and sign autographs because like you're like an internet celebrity." And I'm like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" So like I gotta go back to work Monday. Like, what are you talking about? So like literally just signing autographs and all that. So that was the Mega Ran album is definitely one for sure. At that time I was calling myself Random. And so after a few years of that, I collaborated with a great producer by the name of K Murdoch in 2010. His group Panacea was on Raucous Records and done a lot of great things. We did an album called Forever Famicom that took us literally around the world. That was the record that kind of took us because it fused this hip hop community and culture that we loved with the gaming community and culture. So then we started getting booked in Japan and the UK and everywhere. So that's another major highlight. 2011, I did Black Materia, which is the album based on Final Fantasy VII. And as far as I knew, it was the first like kind of niche nerd rap album to like really hit like Billboard and do a lot of cool things. So it's a record that like that's the record I quit my job off of. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is the one." I didn't have a plan of 10,000 like Noveliss did. I think I just thought like, yo, if I can get a couple months ahead on rent, then I could figure the rest out, And I never did really like look at the finances. I was just like, here's a chart, and it was the chart of top records on iTunes, and I was like number 10 in the rap chart, and I was like, I started looking at the guys ahead of me, and I was like, I bet you they don't got day jobs. Like, all right, I'm out of here. So that was it for me. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna give this a go. And from there, like literally a week later, I got offered a 30-city tour of the US and with MC Chris. And like it really like changed my life. Like just being able to see fans in all these different places who loved the music and wanted to support it. And lastly, I would say 2015's record for me, Random, it's spelled RNDM, is probably the record that I think a lot of people have gravitated to because it's the first time I really put like the soul of like hip hop in with like me sampling or creating like a chiptune type sound and vibe to go with it, but also very soulful. Some of my favorite rappers are on there: Joel Ortiz, Murs, Kool Keith, and others. So that's the record that a lot of people consider like really like crossed over for me, because if there's any such thing, because it was like top on like college radio charts, and I think that's where I heard of Clear Soul Forces. Was like looking at a lot of those charts and things and being like, "Oh, it's all right. Who's this group?" So I was like, "Oh, let me go listen." And then like from there is when I really started like finding out about Noveliss. So yeah, like then we wound up meeting at a convention. So it just all kind of worked itself out. But those are the essentials, I think, for me. If you get the first Mega Ran, the Forever Famicom, Black Materia, and Random, those are the ones.
Dope. Wow, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. Go ahead, Noveliss. I know you did allude to this a little bit, some of your prominent moments, but if you want to add anything to it.
Same, man. I have a lot of projects out. My group has a lot of projects out. If I were to talk about the things that were essential to me, like as a individual artist, I would say definitely Cerebral Apex. Like I said, 2018, that's the album that I quit my job off of. That's the album where I was able to really show myself that I could do this for a living. And I just remember, that's really one of the times where I just like completely just did whatever I wanted creatively, right? Like that album I actually wrote a manga that goes with it, and the album is like a story that plays itself out throughout the album. And I just remember I had got brung to San Diego Comic-Con, and that's when I like announced the album and I showed some of the things from it. And I just remember the people in the panel room were like really like going crazy over it. It was really dope. So definitely Cerebral Apex. I'm kind of the same way. I sometimes I like to work with just one producer and like kind of put that one sound in like a capsule and just work with that one person and then kind of do something else. So I did another project called Metal Face Hokage. I did it with a producer out of Seattle named Def D. He's really, really dope. I met him when I was on tour with my group Clear Soul Forces. And that's just probably my project. That's just kind of like some hard hitting, like gritty hip hop stuff. It's one of my favorites, and it's a fan favorite too. It's one of my most like successful ones. So and it's got some of my favorite videos as well. So I would say that. And then my next one would definitely be Sword of Nature. I did it in 2019. I'm a big martial arts guy. You know, I do martial arts. I'm a huge fan of martial arts in general. And this was just really kind of an album I did with Hero. Hero is my right hand. He's my best friend. He's an amazing producer. And we kind of channeled this like kind of Asian, you know, not really low on the drums, not a lot of drums, just kind of a different sounding project, man. And it was my first vinyl release ever. And I just remember being like, oh man, vinyl's expensive. Like, can I sell all these? And I sold like 100 vinyl in like 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? So it was amazing. And so definitely they would be those three for me. Cerebral Apex, Metal Face Hokage, and Sword of Nature for sure.
That's what's up. And I see the MF Doom, you know, vinyl and
oh yeah, Doom's my favorite rapper, man. So it's when he passed, it's pretty tough on me, man. So
likewise, yeah. Man, he was my favorite MC of all time too, man. And I even did a show on that not too long ago, man. So it was definitely a loss, man. So
word.
Yeah, man, absolutely. He's truly a rapper's rapper, MC's MC, man. Like probably the greatest, you know, like bar for bar, man. Hip hop like took a real big loss
for sure.
Definitely. And very innovative too, man. I feel like a lot of what we're seeing in terms of, you know, the abstract hip hop or the innovative hip hop that we see today are like people who are very much inspired by him as well.
Oh yeah,
indeed. So I wanted to ask you, Mega Ran, about from what I understand, you put out a book not too long ago called Dream Master. Can you talk about what the book is actually about, just briefly?
Yeah. I wrote a memoir. Like the time that I've been home. I mean, I've been working on it for like 6 years, kind of putting it off here and there. But since I was home, I decided to finish it. Here's a bookmark. But yeah, it's called Dream Master, which is named after one of my favorite songs that I did, which is also named after a video game about a character, Little Nemo, who was like able to control his dreams and see the world through his dreams. And I thought like that's really what we are as kids of hip hop, you know, where we just close our eyes and see these unimaginable things and we write it down. And so yeah, it's about my life up, like a lot of major moments from the beginning to a very specific point, which is 2018, which is the year that I received a Guinness World Record. And so it's a cool story that kind of leads up to that. It's like to go from, you know, just sitting on the stoop dreaming of doing this to like really traveling the world and being rewarded for your, you know, your art, which is really dope. There's some sad moments. There's some, you know, victorious, happy moments as well. But yeah, it is it's 260 pages if you like a good little read. And I'm very proud of it. You know, this is something that I wanted to write for so long. And like I said, it took forever. I was an English major, So I overthink and overcorrect and overanalyze
Me
every
too.
single word. Yeah. Every single word that ever comes out of my mouth. So I was like, it's not done. It's not done. I gotta fix it, you know. And my editor was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, put this out. And I'm like, but I'm just not sure. Like, I'm just so unsure of myself. And she's like, I like it. I read through it 10 times. Like, come on, you know. So yeah, I'm very happy to say that I'm an author, which is wild. But that was a whole crazy experience, just learning how to navigate the world of like literature, you know, where it's like, all right, I've dealt with shady labels and rap. I've dealt with, you know, shady promoters and doing shows, but like the book world is a whole nother thing. Like we even tried to do a documentary, so I know a little bit about the film world, but books, whole nother thing. Like it's literally the oldest, you know, profession of media. So like people been getting over for centuries. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been getting over for centuries. So it's like I'm glad that the resources exist now to self-publish a book, you know, because I've talked to publishers and the conversations were downright disgusting. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, is it about hip hop? All right, well, you know, is it about like the Black experience? Because that's really in right now. Like focus on being Black. And I was like, yo, this feels gross, you know. So it's yeah, publishers want it to be a certain way. And I feel like my book, which is a lot like my music, is kind of everywhere. Sometimes it's about games, sometimes it's about life, sometimes it's about faith, sometimes it's about some fantasy, you know. And so they were like, we really need to pinpoint this so we know how to market it. And I'm like, oh, here we go, having those marketing conversations. And so it was like terrible. So I was just like, I'm gonna do it myself, man. Like, thanks, but no thanks. You know, if I decide to write a very specific book next time, you know, I know where to go and how to do it. But you can't really compartmentalize your life into this like one thing. It's like, all right, is it a book about a student? Is it a book about a rapper? Is it a book about a gamer? Is it a book about a Black man? You know what I mean? So it's like people are really trying to pin you down, and that was a rough experience. But yeah, so I decided to do it my own way, like I've been doing my whole career. So we just put it out ourselves, did a, you know, dreammasterbook.com. You can get it direct, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it anywhere. And it's got a foreword by one of my favorite wrestlers, Xavier Woods of the New Day, who gave me some kind words, you know, just talking about being a Black nerd and growing up and how we had so many similar experiences. And I think that's what definitely drew me and Noveliss together. It's like I always talk about the Venn diagram of like rap and like nerd culture, and it's like it's very few people who I can talk like rap music, wrestling, anime, comics, sports with. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very few people who you can have any of those conversations with, and once you do, you're like, oh dang, we really gel on something. So yeah, that's what led to the album happening for sure.
Especially all of those combined, right? Like
yeah.
you might find people
I have three people, and Mega Ran's one of
them. Right.
So Mega, tell me about this Guinness Book of World Records. Like I need you to talk to me about that. I read that actually slightly, but I didn't know what it was. Can you tell me what it is?
Well, it's more amazing. Maybe it's more amazing than it sounds more amazing than I think it is, but it's still pretty cool. So here's what happened. When I first quit my job, I started making these video game flips and putting them on YouTube. Like, all right, today I'm feeling Mega Man 1. I'm gonna flip this, bam, 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 make a beat, make a rap. Final Fantasy, bam, flip it, make a rap. Metal Gear Solid, I don't know, flip it, make a rap. Zelda, I don't know. So this dude a couple years ago just emails me out the blue, like, hey, we work for Guinness, and we're just curious, like, how many songs do you have about Mega Man? And I was like, it's a lot. But let me go back and count. So I go through and like I really didn't know. So I just counted, you know, all the tracks that have been commercially released. And they were like, that's really the key. And I was like, there's like 130. And he was like, oh, that's definitely a record. Like, okay, so we're doing this Gamers Guinness World Records edition, and we want to do a story on you and get you a plaque for having the most songs about a specific game. And I'm like, okay. So it's one of them things, like you do it enough times, you get an award. Like you can get an award for like the most blinks in a day. You know what I'm saying? Like if you dedicate it to something, you can do it. Like the most hours without blinking or something, I'm sure is a freaking record too. So yeah, man, it was an honor, man. And so they hit me up and they was like, yo, if you're ever in London, you know, we would love to do a little a ceremony for you and get you an award. And I was like, well, what a coincidence. I'll be in London next month. And I wasn't actually going to be in London next month. I was like, let me call all my homies in London. Like, yo, let's get a tour, and booked an entire tour in a month and out in London and then the rest of the UK. And I was like, I'm not going to miss this like at all. And I think it just became like the perfect place to end the book because I landed at Heathrow. They had a driver there. This sharply dressed brother was like, hey, Mr. Jabo, I'm ready to pick you up. Are you a Mega Ran by any chance? And I was like, yeah. Like, I'm sitting in the car. He's grabbing my luggage. And like, it's an hour ride to the downtown to where this place is. And like, all I did was just reflect. Like, did you ever imagine you'd be here? Like, wow. So I'm back there like shedding some thug tears, you know, just like, yo, I'm getting a chauffeur picking me up in London. Like, what? Like, come on, man. So many people told me this would never work. This will never fly. Like, yo, you can't be mixing games and rap. Like, that's corny. People ain't gonna like it. Yo, it ain't real hip hop. It ain't dope. It's a gimmick. It's, you know, like all the things that have ever been said or that I've even thought about myself, like doubted myself, you know, all were just flooding back. And I was just like, wow, this is true emotion. And from there, I just started writing. And I think from then is when I started kind of finishing off the book. Like I knew this is where the story should end for now, because it was like a great reflective moment. So yeah, man, like with me, people always do that. They're like, oh, if you're ever going to be in, I don't know, Asia, you know, hit me up. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, what are the odds I'm going to be there? Right. So I was just like, nah, I'm going to make this work. So got the plaque. We did a live stream from the offices. I did a couple songs live. I mean, it was incredible. It was just a moment I'll never forget. And it was the same week that Black Panther came out. And Black Panther came out maybe a little earlier in the UK. So that night I got to watch Black Panther in London.
Yo,
and
that's
it was
crazy,
just,
bro.
It was like that. So I was like, yo, this is a moment. Like, you know, I'm like, I cried like 5 times that day. And like that was like, this is where the book has to end. You know what I'm saying? So that was how it happened. Like, insane.
Wow. So the book talks about that experience.
Yes. I gave you the short version, but yeah, that's literally the last chapter of the book is that whole experience that day and what I went through to get there, and how like we went to see Black Panther. There's like, you know, there's Africans behind me in African garb, and like there's this man I overhear him saying like, this is so beautiful. Like I never thought I'd see this, you know. And I was like, that's how I feel, man. Like, yeah, it was something, man. Like something, yeah.
Dope. Wow, man. What a
hip hop, man. Hip hop did this, man. Like that's crazy.
Man. That's wild.
Like that is wild, man. Hip hop.
An applause for hip hop, man. Let's get another.
For real, man. Hip hop is saving lives out here, man.
Word up, man. That is so amazing. So let's talk about how you guys even came together. I think you guys mentioned it briefly, but let's talk about how you guys first met and how it actually, that relationship manifested into this Maverick Hunters project.
All right. Now, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, man. So yeah, there's a big anime festival in Detroit, and it's called YumaCon, right? And I'm a huge anime fan. I talk about it in my music all the time, you know, and it had always been kind of a localized dream of mine to you know, perform at YumaCon, because YumaCon started doing a hip hop show. And then they had, I remember my manager, Chris, who's another one of my best friends, and he was, you know, they had hit me up to perform, and then I was like, y'all are sweet, you know, cool. I was definitely going to do it. And then, cause I go to YumaCon anyway, every year. And then he said Mega Ran was headlining, and I'm like, yo, that's crazy, you know? So I was like, all right, so we definitely got to do it. And then, I think I performed right before. I think I performed right before you did, or a couple acts before you, and then I performed. It was dope. And then I remember he headlined. It was awesome. That was the first time I saw you do the freestyle thing.
Nice.
It was sweet. And then yeah, and then after, you know, where I was just kind of selling merch, and we just kind of talked, and just realized that, you know, we had a lot in common, you know, and we just kind of, that one day ended up just turning into us just trading conversations, you know, over the next couple months. And then he was going to Japan, and he had hit me up to see if I wanted to go, because we're both huge wrestling fans, and Wrestle Kingdom it's basically New Japan Pro Wrestling's WrestleMania, right? It's their biggest show of the year. It's always on January 4th in the Tokyo Dome. So we ended up going to Japan together, and that's the trip that inspired my whole Cerebral Apex album. But at the same time, I always credit that trip with kind of the trip that me and Mega Ran really became like friends. You know what I mean? We spent the whole week together. You know, we just did a lot, man. We hung out, went to see the Gundam statue, you know, did a couple shows, like went to Wrestle Kingdom, and it was just, I mean, business is really important, but you know, friendship is even more important. And I think that Japan trip really made us friends, and also like, yo, we have to do something together one day, you know. And then the first, it started off as we did a joint on my Cerebral Apex album called Be Fine, and then when he was in town, we shot a video for it, you know. And then I remember we did the show in Chicago at what was the spot called? The arcade spot, wasn't it? I don't remember.
Emporium.
Yeah. We did the show in Chicago. And then, you know, and then we just stay connected, man. You know, again, just sometimes when you talk about music, you just talk about wrestling, you know. And then I was on tour in 2019, and we went to Phoenix, and he came out, looked out for us, man. He rocked the show in Phoenix with us. And then, you know, again, then I started working on an album that's not out yet, but he's on that one too. You know what I mean? And then when COVID happened, it really, really kind of gave us a chance to like sit down and be like, all right, like this is the time. Like let's start firing some joints back and forth to each other. You know, we got all this time. Like we're both on the road all the time, and with COVID and everything, there were no shows, so we were both kind of at home. So it really, a blessing in a terrible disguise, gave us the chance to really work on something together.
Yeah.
Dope. Now talk to me about you know, like the Maverick Hunters, right? Like what inspired y'all to go full on with this Maverick Hunters Mega Man theme and create an entire music project based on this concept?
Well, even like through our conversations, like we were both into the Mega Man games and the Mega Man lore. And then his favorite character was Zero, mine was X. Like it just made a lot of sense, so much that like these guys team up and they have really interesting stories and interplay between them. And so much like that, it was like, oh, well, this is very similar to the game. So I think whatever we do, I think it's gotta tie in a little bit, you know what I'm saying, with that. And so from the artwork to the story to like the sounds, everything was starting to really come together. And it's something that I used to do a lot of, you know, in the beginning of the Mega Ran story, was me like flipping Mega Man or classic games beats and stories. And I hadn't done that in a really long time. So I always knew like, oh man, I kind of overdid it. Like I was like, I'm not going to do any more Mega Man related stuff until it's really inspired and like super dope. And that's what happened. Like coming back to this project, like my good homie of mine, Jan Lee from Cincinnati, sent me a ton of beats, and he was sampling a lot of Mega Man. And I was just like, oh man, he put some of the classic sounds in there, and the Capcom and the startup screens, and I was just like, yo, it's taking me back. It gave me that feeling again from like when I was doing it years ago. So honestly, since the Guinness World Record thing, which was 2018, I kind of stopped. I was like, I don't want to be this one trick pony who just does this Mega Man thing. But like, again, I got to be inspired. So as the song concepts are coming back, I was just like, man, this is really good. I think Noveliss is one of the best lyricists I've ever heard in my life. So to be able to like rhyme with him and, you know, go back and forth on tracks and concepts was like a blessing. So, you know, it kicked my brain into a higher gear, you know what I'm saying? So that we could, you know, iron sharpens iron thing. And it was dope. It just like, as like I would send him a beat and a verse would come back the next day. And I was just like, dang, like this is crazy. Like he's working like, and I thought I worked pretty fast, you know? So I was just like, okay, like this got me to up my work rate as we were just like keeping them coming, man. And the beats from Hero were like crazy on there. So it was just like, we just got put in a zone, you know, by the production that we were getting, I think. And I think that's what powered it absolutely for me. And before I knew it, we had 8 joints that like we both really liked. And I think what we did, which was good, I think COVID forced us to, we recorded them and then we sat them down for a while, you know, gave them to the mix engineer and kind of walked away, you know, and then like coming back to him a couple months later, it was like, man, yo, who did this? Yeah, this is crazy. You know? Like, oh, that's me. What? You know, like, yeah, it was dope. Like, because at the time, I mean, I think that's so important for the creative process is to be able to walk away. And the same, you know, with my book and all the other stuff I've gone through, like, you got to be like, I'm done. And then you stop. And then you go move on and you come back. And if you still like it, then it's got to come out, you know. And because when you're in the moment in the studio, you've seen all the video footage of every person in the studio going crazy, going crazy. Oh, this is fire. This is the greatest thing ever. And then it ain't. You know, like it's in that moment on them big speakers is the energy of all the homies. That's what's making it dope. But like you listen to it later, like, oh, what was I thinking? Like, this is trash. Like that's literally happened to me where I was like, oh my God, I just struck gold, yo. And then I come back like, this ain't it. So it's an important part of the process that gets overlooked. And I do think, I mean, Cril, you mentioned that like there's so many people that's inspired by like the Doom way of creating these days, where Doom was so dope at making everything look effortless, even though like there was mad complexities in the rhymes and in the schemes and in the creation, but it looked so effortless. And I was like, man, like him changing names. I was like, does he even want people to find this? Like, how you know what I'm saying? I was like, this is terrible marketing. Like, you know, like, bro, we want more of your music. Why are you changing the name up? You know, so it was like, it's like, so it felt so effortless, like he wasn't trying to be noticed or seen, but he was deliberately trying to like buck the system and do something different, you know, which I really loved about Doom. And that was kind of, you know, it inspired a lot of the Mega Ran from Random, you know, persona kind of for me. And I was like, but I'm just an indie artist. I can't change my name and release something under a different name. Nobody will find me, you know? And so, yeah, so in this process, like coming back to stuff and like, that's what I think sent it to the next level. So when I came back to it after we heard the final masters, I was like, oh, this got to come out. Like, this is fire, you know? And now I felt the same way. So we got to work, man. And I'm very happy with how it's come out, man. It's been out a couple weeks and the response has just been better than I could expect it, you know?
Yeah.
Dope, man. Well said. In the Bandcamp description of the album, it says, much like the heroes the album is named after, the Maverick Hunters, the album has arrived to bring about positive change in a sea of uncertainty. Our 2 heroes are dedicated to the cause. How does that positive change actually play out within the music on the album in this sea of uncertainty?
Oh man, I think both of us and on this project especially just bring a positive energy and very like relatable content, right? Like I know for me personally, the song Imposter Syndrome, I love that song. I remember when Rand sent it over, I was just like, yo, this is crazy, you know, because it's not only is it super relatable, right? Because I'm sure everybody feels like that at some point in their life, but also the way the song is and the rhymes in the song, like there's always, even though it might not seem like it, there's always some type of light at the end of the tunnel, you know what I mean? And I think that that's what this project is, and I think that a lot of the music on this project kind of gives off that message, and the energy in the project is very positive.
Oh. So I want to actually talk about some of the lyrics on the project, right? If you've caught any of my recent or previous episodes, you know, I really like it to get into the theory, the themes, the subject matter, the lyrics on the album. So let's talk about the first track. It's entitled Complete the Mission. And it starts off with a line by you, Noveliss, where you say, the less poised turn in an opposite direction at the sight of the Reploid. Now, for those that may not know, the Reploid is kind of like the arch enemy of the Maverick Hunters, right? I had to kind of, you know, find that out. The Maverick Hunters being the good doers or the protectors of humans. But yeah, what made you start off the album with that line, in a sense, emphasizing the weakness of being less poised?
Oh man, just definitely it's a song where we were definitely trading rhymes, right? So this is just, you know, a lot of rappers. I think that one thing that a lot of rappers do when they do songs with each other or they do projects with each other is sometimes they shy away from making the joint where they are kind of going head to head, right? And this is a song where we do it a couple of times on the project, right? Like there's just two elite MCs just rapping, right? And I just think that's what that song is, and that's kind of the message that I was, you know, telling in the beginning.
Okay, so it's just the vibe, right? Because it's a pretty poignant message. I mean, it's a very intriguing message when you think about it. Like, you know, starting off by just saying pointing out the weakness of the, you know, the less poised.
Right.
But that's dope. So on the same song, Mega, you have a line where you say X's and zeros might seem like opposites, but we ride in the beat like hover cycles made by T-Light. I'm not sure if I got that last part.
Okay. Yeah, because like it's a you know, double meaning, you know, having fun with words and terms. X's and O's is you know, tic-tac-toe. Also, you know, they're the opposition in that position. And so, but in the game and in our world, X being Mega Man X and Zero being Noveliss are partners. So now we flipped it. We've taken something that's considered to be opposites in a different world, like X's and O's should be opposition to each other, and we're now this Super Marvel universe team up type thing. And so that's really what it was. Like, we both come from different places. We both have come from different situations, whether it be labels and groups and travels and audiences, and to kind of wade into each other's waters is really where we are. And that's what we're talking about, basically. Like, because I said a little bit of it before, but like being in this subgenre that I've kind of waded in called nerdcore, a lot of folks maybe look at that as like how do I say, whack Emcees. So you know what I'm saying? They'll be like, oh man, you know, people who make nerdcore ain't really dope. They just rap about that thing that they like, and people who like that thing are gonna like what they do. So basically saying we can wade in each other's waters. You know, I don't know if people have ever mentioned the term nerdcore with Noveliss, probably because you reference a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah,
I've never heard the term before, but I can see why it exists, but I in no way would I say that it's synonymous with whack rappers, because it takes a lot of skill, like it, you know, to put together, like the way that you guys do things. At least there's a cleverness to it. There's a creativity.
There's
it doesn't matter what you talk about. Like, how clever is it? How creative is it?
I think it takes more creativity, and we argue about it and talk about it online a lot. But it takes more creativity to like pretend you're a comic book character than to pretend you're the gangster that you see walking down the street, you know, or you saw in a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, rappers are cosplaying every day. You know what I'm saying? And it's like we're just taking, you know, something that touched us in a different way. So in the same sense that I look at it, like our heroes, Tribe Called Quest and Jay Dilla sampled jazz. You know, we sampled the things that we grew up with, which were hip hop. You know, so instead of the jazz and the funk and the soul records, it's like gaming music, you know, like Super Mario that saved my life, you know, and all these other things, you know. So basically the whole line and a lot of the, because I knew this would be the intro song, you know, with it being like Complete the Mission, you know, it's like, yo, congratulations, you got this, and now like we're here, we're teamed up, so like all y'all in trouble kind of thing.
Right.
You know? It's like, you know what I'm saying, it's like whatever side you on, like you have to recognize, one, the skill that we're both bringing to the table, and the desire to create something that's different and something that belongs in your rotation, you know. So that was a lot of what that, like, yeah, it's just flexing, as Nav said. And like, I don't do that very often because I kind of came up doing that. Like, that was battle rap was my life. Like, that's how I started rapping. It was freestyle battles. Your mom this, you look like this, your dad that, you know. And I kind of feel like I grew out of it, but at the same time, it's always fun to go back, like just those freestyle bars, you know. So it was like, that's what it was for this. It was like, we got to set it off with some lines, you know. So that's really what it was. There's another part, I don't know if you're gonna get to it, but there's so many, like the entire verse, and I think for both of us, you kind of got to know a little bit about the Mega Man universe to really get what's happening, but they have double meanings. You know what I'm saying? So like X's and zeros, or this verse, I charge like this thing on my arm. You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, I have an arm cannon that charges up, but charge like I charge money. So it's like, you know, everything, almost the entire verse is a double meaning.
I caught that, and I was getting ready. I didn't get a chance to complete the question, but I was gonna say, you know, allude to the whole X being a character and Zero being a character, as you say, in the Maverick Hunters or the Mega Man series. And I just wanted to know, like, when you said that line about X and O's might seem like opposites, it made me think about X and O's as another term that also represents love. And since the Maverick Hunters are doing it for the love of the people, right? I wanted to know, did y'all happen to look at X and O from that perspective as well?
I will say I did not. Only because I feel like there is a lot of love, of course, and care that is going into the songs and the subject matter. But the games are about, you know, saving the world. And sometimes it takes, you know, some blasting to do that. So yeah, I kind of took it from a point of like war, but not necessarily like, not a war that we asked for, but, you know, a war that we have to fight, which is every day for us, you know, especially during the pandemic, you know, and there's a war on Black people in this world. So like, we're in it whether we want to be or not, as soon as we walk out the door, you know what I'm saying? So that's really what a lot of it is just like, we're in a war that we didn't ask for, but like, do we have to play our part, you know, or the whole race is extinct, you know?
I get it. Yeah, I was just adding on, because sometimes when I listen to the music, like a new thought pops up in my mind. I wonder, like, oh, could this mean this as well, you know? So I just wanted to share that, but that's cool. I really appreciate that explanation. So the next track is entitled "How Many Lives." What would you say is the main or underlying message you all wanted to convey with this particular track? How many lives?
So I thought at this point we were writing a lot of songs, and a lot of them didn't have hooks, and so I was really happy that this one had a hook. So like, The concept is something that goes on through, I think, the majority of the album, and specifically the through line of video games and hip hop and of life is to the continue. The continue screen you're going to get at the end of the game when you run out of lives. You're going to have a continue screen. They're going to be like, do you want to continue or do you want to quit? And we have to continue. So that's really what I think for me, that was like, we're not going to give up. So that was like, it's like we're in the final later stages of the war, and it's getting bad, and we got some casualties, we down, but we're not out. So the continue on part was really where I think for me a lot of the rhymes came from. And there's a lot of chances for me to look back on throughout a lot of these songs. There's a lot of references to like childhood and what games did for me or what hip hop did for me. And so even when this one, it's like you start thinking back to when you were a kid and you realize like stuff was so sweet and easy back then. And then you see now that it's not like that. But we can't just give up. We gotta continue on because we here now. So that's really what I was going for in that one.
Dope. Now my next question in regards to that track is for you, Noveliss. You have a line on that song where you say you feel anxious when your surroundings lack changing. The innovative never stare at the loading screen in the Matrix. Can you explain the meaning behind that line?
Yeah.
Like my favorite line in the joint.
I just think that for me personally, but also for a lot of creative people in general, I'm used to traveling. I know Mega Ran is used to traveling, and we were working on this during being stuck in the house and quarantine. So, a man of the planet, I feel anxious when my surroundings lack changing. I get anxious when I'm not, in a different country or a different state, or when I'm just kind of in the same place for a long time. I get a little anxious, like not just like in life, but also creatively, like it helps to be able to move and go different places and see different things. And then also the innovative never stay at the loading screen in the Matrix. I mean, being a creative person, even though we're stuck, we still have to do our thing. We still have to be able to create. We still have to be able to innovate, and we still have to be able to be able to do our art, even if we are stuck, in the house. We can't stare at the loading screen in the Matrix. You know what I mean?
Got it, man. There's a lot of dope lines on this project, man. And like you said, man, you have to, you kind of got to know a little bit about the Mega Man series to understand, the depth of where you guys take it with this stuff. So I just think for people that might be new to you all or just new to this project, they definitely gotta tap into Mega Man and just do a little research,
Yeah, I feel like I was wondering like if we should do like a Genius page or something for it, because there's some people who just will listen and be like, hey, that sounds dope, but not have any idea what we're doing.
Right.
I remember talking to Homeboy Sandman about Genius and how like he hates it. He was like, he's like, yo, Genius is the dumbest thing ever because, and I was like, why? He's like, man, what if I don't want to explain it? Or, it makes smart rappers look dumb and dumb rappers look smart.
Yo,
so I was like, well, maybe we can annotate it ourselves so that we could explain it. So because people be like, oh no, he meant this. It's like, nah, I just meant I'm better than you. You're like, really?
Right. Yo, that totally sounds like something Homeboy Sandman would say too.
Yo, big up.
I love him.
Man.
He's one of my favorite rappers, man. He's a good dude. We talk every once in a while. Super good guy.
I actually appreciate that. And you guys could probably, see from the type of questions I'm asking y'all. Like, I'm a fan of the lyrics. Like, I want to know what is being said. I want to know what's the underlying meaning. And from my experience of doing these shows, a lot of the people that tune in are like very happy to hear, some of the context of the music.
Word.
So I think from a fan's perspective, I I think it makes a lot of sense. We talking about MF Doom, like, you know, I've been on Genius quite a lot, looking up Doom and other artists, just trying to figure out what, you know, what these meanings, you know, what's the meanings behind some of these lyrics. And I think there's a community that generally wants to know, you know, me as a listener, like, you know, I have my, you know, I'm cool with my open interpretation of things, but at the end of the day, I would say personally, I really want to know what you're saying, like what you really meant, because it makes way more sense to me. And I value your art in that way. So yeah, thanks for talking about that. So the production sound on the project is obviously very video game-esque. And you know, it like you said, it really, the sound came together, which really intrigued you guys when you heard it. Talk to me about the 3 different producers involved on the projects and your reasons for going with, you know, with the sound with them.
Well, I gotta shout out my man Young Lee Li. He's from Cincinnati. I met him at a show one day, and I meet a lot of people who are like, "Yo, I got beats for you, cuz," and like, I'll never forget the story. He's from Cincinnati, and he's like, "Yo, come to the studio." And after our show, I went to his studio, and I'll never forget. I was listening to beats, and like they're really hard. So like, what he does is he mixes the trap sound of production with a lot of video game sounds, and like he does it in a way that like I've never really seen. So a lot of what Nerdcore is doing is kind of creating music that's like opposite of hip hop, like left of what's hot or right of what's hot, you know, and like not really hitting it in the center and being like, yo, you could hear this on Hot 97, you know, or you could hear this wherever. So he was really good at creating songs that sound like freaking Drake could have rapped on it, you know. And I was like, oh wow, like he's got an ear for like a big sound, which I hadn't heard a lot. And he produced a record for me called Church, which came out in 2017. I put it on Patreon, and then it became like one of my most popular songs. It's like one of my top songs on Spotify. Like it just kind of became a hit. And I was like, I got to work with him more. And he was like, oh, say less, bro. And just sent me a bunch of stuff. But I remember that studio session because, and this is mad random, but he had like, there's a wall in the studio where everybody signs that has come to the studio. And one of the signatures was Slim Jesus. And I was like, do y'all remember Slim Jesus? Cril, I don't know if you remember him, but like Slim Jesus was like this little white dude who was like doing drill music and was like talking about shooting you, killing you, like a little skinny 90-pound dude with no shirt on. And he recorded there, and I was like, yo, that's hilarious. I'm never gonna forget that. Like, I'm in the studio that Slim Jesus started in. So anyway, I just had to throw that point out. So from there, I joke about with Eli all the time, like, yo, Slim Jesus been coming through, man. What's up? You know? But yeah, so he sent me some crazy beats, man. And like the guy's ear is phenomenal. And the moment I told him we were doing something Mega Man and Zero related, he was like, oh man, I've been waiting for this call. You know, and he sent me so much stuff. And like I remember sending Noveliss like 3 beats a day. Like this dude was just keeping them coming. And I was like, all right, let's go. And so I was really happy to work with him on this. This is the first extended like stuff we've done together. And I'll mention the other producers, DN3, who's been my show DJ for a very long time. He's like a student of the J Dilla, Pete Rock school, you know, very dope with his swings and chops. And the Joint Bubblegum Crisis he did. And then we got my other homie, DJ Reflection, to do some scratching on it. And just to kind of bring it back to the essence, I feel like, you know, I wanted to mix it up. It's almost like 2 albums, you know. I feel like the first half and second half are almost 2 different albums. And I wanted it that way because it's 2 different people, you know. And so I feel like that kind of hit on the boom bap side, you know, just kind of scratch that itch. But then there's other records that are, you know, some 808s and some, you know, some double times and some, you know. So it was important to me to be very like kind of versatile on it. And we did it, you know. So but I'll let Noveliss talk about Hero, because Hero's phenomenal, and you know, they're very tight. So I want him to make sure he does them the proper justice.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hero.
Yeah, when we started this, Mega Ran was kind of getting it started with the beats that he was sending over, and they were really really good. So I would really naturally wanted to get my guy involved, Hero, and Hero's just he's I mean he's a good friend, but he's just an amazing producer, man. Like he's able to really just do anything. Like he did a project like Sort of Nature, but then you hear the beats he did on this, and you know what I mean. And uh, he's just rare. Like he's a very rare, very very amazing producer. And the one of the joints we did, which is one of my favorites, Clash of the Titans, man. I remember when he made, when he sent me the beat, the beat was amazing, and then I came to him with the verse, and I'm like, yo, I know this sounds weird, but for some reason this song makes me think of wrestling. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know why. Let me just do this verse, and I'm gonna explain this idea to you. Then I lay the verse down, and I explain the idea to him, and then he's just like, oh, like okay, like this is, you know what I'm saying. And then I sent them some of the Mega Man Zero soundtrack for him to sample, and he makes the memory card joint. Like he can, like I said, he can just do anything. Whatever you tell him to do, like he'll make it happen. It's really really, it's a blessing to be so tight with him, man.
Yeah, he's a beast, man. Like he's one of my favorite producers, man. He can do anything. And man, I heard that memory card track. It just like blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like with him when he was making it, and the whole time I was just like, oh my god.
Bro, it's like unfair, bro. He's like the cheat code.
It's crazy, man.
like having like that in Clash of the Titans, and we both love wrestling. I didn't know. I'm really glad Nambas brought that to me, because like I didn't know if we were going to do a song specifically about wrestling.
Yeah.
We got a ton of references in like every song, but I didn't know if we were going to actually go outside of the the concept a little bit. And we did, and it's a banger.
I was saying, because I'm gonna get into that. I'm going through song on the project. All right. So
okay.
Thank you for sharing that, Noveliss, and thank you, Mega Ran, for talking about the producers. Let's talk about Dear Summer. It's the third track. Why did you choose the summer as the season the song would be addressed to?
I don't know, man. I just think that because we started working on this was like we probably started working on this around late January, maybe February so with COVID kind of first starting, I think this song was addressed to like Dear Summer, we're waiting on you. We're waiting for this COVID thing to be done so we can like go outside and like so we can get back to our lives and things be somewhat normal again. That I think that's kind of where I was at when I started writing the verse for this song. And then Mega Ran came with the hook, and it fit perfectly. So
dope. Now, Noveliss, you also have a line on that song where you say, understand providence prior to knowing what a profit is, and the pursuit of knowledge and balance through your accomplishments. Can you explain the significance of what that line embodies?
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of people are so quick to crown, I guess, people as like people are so quick to like worship celebrities, and you know what I mean, and crown people as like these just top tier. It could be anything, music, especially in music, right? Like every time a rapper comes out, oh, he's the GOAT, man. He's the greatest. He's the best rapper out. And I just think that people do that without, when you think of providence, you think of like spirituality, spiritual power, right? People will crown people without really acknowledging the fact that they may not possess the proper power or ability that is needed to be crowned as such. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what that means.
Interesting. Let's talk about Mega Ran's verse on Dear Summer. It actually starts off with you saying, I listen to Greta and almost can't believe how the world's greatest thinkers get outclassed by a teen. For those that don't know, which includes me, is Greta, and why do you choose to reference her on this particular song?
Greta can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Greta Thunberg is what is she, 17 or 18 now? She is like a child genius. And she lives in Sweden, Stockholm, and she's an activist. At 16, 17, she became like viral for just speaking in front of like global warming, groups and summits, and talking about the real of climate change. And I was like, man, like when I think about when any of us were 16, 17, like there's no way that any of us would have had the wherewithal or the articulation to be able to stand up against freaking politics and politicians and like really go hard on like climate change stuff. So, she's like a legit activist, and like she's like, I would even say one of my heroes, because she's like super dope. And like she knows what she's talking about. So I love the fact that she's not ashamed of speaking up, and she's not like nervous as I would have been as a teenager. Like we all hated public speaking as teenagers, and so to see what she's been able to do is like it changes like my whole perspective on like what we can do. And so again, we used the sample of one of her speeches for a song I did called Cry of the Planet that came out earlier this year. And it's just talking about climate change and like how we need to take this stuff seriously. And like, and then Nav sent me this verse, and I was like, oh, good. Like we get to do a song about climate change. Like dope. Like how many rappers are talking about this, and so it was Greta's like speeches that were on the front of my mind. So I hope that, me saying that makes somebody go and Google Greta Thunberg, and she's a G, man. Like, I just like really love her fearlessness to get up and like speak. So she started with something simple, like, doing a climate strike at her like school, something like that, where it's like, all right, guys, we're going to write signs and do all this cool stuff and, be active. And I was like, man, like when I was her age, as I say in the song, like, my concern was parties every week. Like I was chilling, and it's like, man, like there's so much power in the youth, and like we gotta respect and listen to and acknowledge the youth, because man, they're a lot wiser than we were in our days, man. Like kids now, like the stuff they know. I mean, you guys are fathers, and like the stuff that they're learning, the stuff that they're picking up. You're like, yo, I didn't learn that till I was 18. Like what? Like. Yeah, like
Absolutely.
They're growing so fast, so we have to nurture them and listen to them, So I think that's where that came from for me. So I'm just hoping some hip hop head will be like, man, who's Greta? Let me just Google it. I'm sure she's the first Greta that comes up, and like she's the most famous Greta in the world, I'm sure. And so yeah, man, I was so inspired by seeing that. You know what I mean? Like she's like the GOAT, so I know that there'll be amazing things for her. She did a TED Talk, which is super dope too. And so check it out. She's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for 3 years in a row. Like, so, check her out. And that's goals for our next, generation, so it's like, it's real dope to see, because we all think, oh, these kids just want to party and be on TikTok and pop pills or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, nah, listen to these kids, Word. So yes, that was the inspiration for that part of the verse.
Got it. So the fourth track, entitled Reploids, although it's kind of like a track of its own, it sounds more like a bridge because it's not like a full song. Tell me why y'all chose to highlight the Maverick Hunters arch enemy, the Reploid, at this particular point in the album, because it feels like it comes in the middle of the album.
That's good.
So talk to me about positioning for that track and why y'all highlighted the Reploids for the full track.
Yeah, I wanted to do like an interlude, you know, and that's really what it was. It was the repetition of the chorus and all that, and to explain that the Reploids are our enemy. So anybody that's, you know, not getting fully what's happening, you know, hopefully will be like, all right, so what is going on with the Reploids, or yada yada yada. So, and you know, maybe you do some Googling, and there's so many different, I think, you know, parallels you can make. It could be rappers who aren't good. It could be rappers who don't try, or producers who don't try to, you know, just people who aren't pushing the culture forward. People who, you know, try to find the easy way around or the easy way out of things, you know, who don't necessarily want to work for those things. So yeah, it was an interlude that I didn't even know was going to be on the album. It was just something I kind of did just to start off. I was like, I'm gonna start this song off. I was like, I'm gonna just start it off. Y'all do what y'all want with it, put it on there or not, you know. And then like I got it back, got this track listing back, and it was there. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. Like, you want to leave it? And you know, and they were like, yeah, we want to leave it. So, but yeah, I thought, you know, to me, it served as a good interlude, you know, to give you a break. Like the first half of the album is kind of rapid fire lyricism and like kind of hardcore, straight at you, you know. So before things kind of start to calm down, I think like it was good to do that one. And it's a sample from, I believe, Mega Man X. And it's like, you know, it's like a creepy dungeon kind of feel. You know what I mean? So I think it's a good change of pace to get you prepared for the second half of the album. So that was the purpose of the placement there.
Yeah, I also noticed that at the end of Dear Summer, I think right before it goes into Reploids, like the beat changes to more of a subtle beat, and then it goes into Reploids. So I could definitely see how you guys were trying to change the sound a little bit there.
Yeah. Shout out to Hero for that. You know, he got it, not just producing a couple of tracks, but also like doing the final like arrangement of a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of that stuff was just his vision being like, yeah, that'll sound good there. That'll sound good. And then I hear it, I'm like, yo, that was perfect, you know? Yeah. So yeah, shout out to Hero.
Dope. So Clash of the Titans was one of the first tracks that I really liked when I heard the album. You know, even though Memory Card is a single, like I think Clash of the Titans really hit me. I think it was more sort of sound. But as I listened to the track more and more, I realized that it was in character of the famous Japan pro wrestling series between wrestler Kazuchika Okada, and I don't know if I said the name correct, and Kenny Omega. For people that may not know, can you all give a brief understanding of this wrestling rivalry and why it was significant enough to be referenced throughout this entire song?
Oh man, for sure. I mean, both of us are gonna have to talk about this. I'll go first. I mean, yeah, like I'm a huge diehard wrestling fan, been a pro wrestling fan my whole life. Kenny Omega, Okada 2017 in Tokyo Dome Wrestle Kingdom 11. It's my favorite match of all time. If I had to pick one match ever to talk about, it would be that one. So when Hero made this beat, I just and I love Kenny Omega. He's my favorite wrestler right now. So and Rand's a big Kenny Omega fan too. So I just thought it would be dope to kind of honor that rivalry that they had and just kind of be one of the characters and he be the other one.
Dope. You know, I got a quotable which really stands out from this particular song. Is in the hook. You guys say, a rainmaker carry the storm and never let up. The one-winged angel can fly in any weather. The one-winged angel can fly in any weather. It's such a dope line, but if you know the Okada versus Omega wrestling story, then the line makes even more sense. So I just wanted to big y'all up for that, because it's one of those moments where you go and you find out about, you know, the series, and you're like, oh man, this line is even doper now that you know what it's about.
Word
up.
Hint for those that might not know, like to pay attention to that line.
Yeah, that's a good line to highlight. Like it makes sense. And I love that about, you know, creating stuff like this where I want it to make sense on several levels, you know. So it's like if it makes sense literally and you pull out the double meaning, you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Right.
So yeah, super proud of that song. This was like one of the first ones where I was like, oh, we got something. Like this is gonna be really, really great. And like I played it for a couple of my friends and like, oh, this is great, you know. So yeah, man, I love it. And I love even a person that isn't necessarily into New Japan or into Omega and Okada can enjoy it because it's a dope beat, it's dope lyrics, and a dope hook. So that's all you need.
Dope. Now it sounds like in the first verse is told in the character of Okada, which seems like it's told by you, Noveliss.
Yeah.
The second verse is in the character of Omega, told by you, Mega. Is that correct? Do I have the correct setup? Okay.
Yeah.
What made you all decide who was going to be Okada and who was going to represent Omega? Like, how did y'all come to that?
I mean, I really like both of them. I just, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of started writing the verse from Okada's perspective, you know. That's just kind of how I started it. And then, I mean, obviously, I sent it over to Mega Ran, and he was able to, you know, take over the Kenny Omega part of it. I don't think I really particularly chose one. I just kind of started writing and from Okada's perspective when I, you know what happened? You know why? Okay, I know why. Because I was playing Tekken, and you know, on Tekken 7, King has the Okada outfit, and that's what made me start writing Okada. That's why I say the King makes his way to the ring, a jaguar mask, the face of an animal, to cover the face of an animal. It's because I was playing Tekken dressed like Okada.
Okay. Okay.
Can I keep it extra real with y'all? Like, I didn't even know about this wrestling series when I heard the song, right? So it made me like further look into it. But remember, I said it was the song that really intrigued me.
Yeah.
It was just the sound of it, right? So I'm trying to follow it from the perspective. Initially, I'm following the song from the perspective of just what I'm hearing, not knowing that these are actual wrestling characters that you're referencing. So I'm like lost. Like, I'm like, okay, maybe he's talking about some type of special power he has. You know what I'm saying? Or like, and then I'm like, when I actually study the wrestling series, like I said, it makes so much more sense. So I got to big y'all up for that, man. I also noticed that the real Kenny Omega is on the intro to the track. How'd y'all get him on there? And did he even get a chance to hear the finished song?
Well, at the time, he didn't know what he was doing, but he guested on my podcast. He's a good friend, and he loves wrestling. And we talked, man, and he can talk. We talked for like 2 hours on my podcast. And at the end, you know, we asked for our drops. And I was like, oh, you know, can you say this, Kenny Omega? You're listening to Random Encounters. And I was like, oh, could you also say, you know, I'm working on this song with my man Noveliss, and you know, we're gonna use it for that. He's like, oh yeah, cool. Like the song wasn't done at that time, like it wasn't mixed. I hadn't let him hear it. He just did it, and then I let him hear it when the album came out, and he was like, yo, holy crap, like y'all killed it. He's like, you really bigged me up. You made me sound like so great. You put me over so big. And like he really loved the lines. He loved the Mario RPG. You know, he's a gamer as well. So like he was like super into. He's like, oh my god, you guys are so talented. Like this is amazing. You know, like so he was super hyped about it. So yeah, like that's how that happened. I wanted to get Okada too, but he doesn't speak English very well. So I don't know if I could have pulled it off, but maybe one day.
Yeah. I mean, it would be dope to find out, like, if he actually heard it and somebody was able to translate it to him, like what his response would be. But that was dope that y'all got Kenny Omega on the song.
Shout out to Kenny for that. That was like a little Easter egg for all of our fans. Like,
and it was kind of a surprise for me too. Like, when he sent it to me, I was like.
Yep, it was big. So yeah, all my wrestling fans, like friends, like fans have like as soon as they heard it, was like, oh, you got Kenny on there too. Like, oh.
Dope. Now the next song, Bubblegum Crisis, is probably the most motivating and positive minded song on the album. Mega Ran, you have a lyric where you say, if you saw the size of the blessing that's coming, you'd understand the magnitude of the stress that you're under. So keep on. How does one even begin to get a glimpse of the blessing that's supposed to be coming?
Man, it's I thought of this line when I saw there's like a classic photograph of a dude digging underground, like digging for gold or whatever. And he's chink, 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 and he's at a wall and he's like about to give up and he's turning around. But then you can see through the wall that the treasure is right there on the other side of it. But like he can't see that. And he's been digging his way all around. And he's like, man, I quit. And like that is what inspired that line. And I think most of the song. And again, I felt like we didn't have enough hooks on the album. So I was like, we got to get some hooks. We got to get some mantras for people to kind of take with them when they leave. Because what I love about Doom is that he doesn't necessarily follow any song structure, but like for fans, it makes them hard. It makes them like have a hard time to figure out which song is the song that they like. You know, it's like, well, what's your favorite song? It's like, you know, that one where you said something about the wrestler, you know, and it's like that could have been any song, you know. So I want to be like the song you said, keep on, you know, or whatever. So that's why I wanted to make sure that some words and phrases are repeated on a record, so that people could be like, yeah, that's the thing. I use that to get up in the morning and jog when I don't want to, you know. So yeah, I got kind of in my spiritual bag on this one, you know. I was like, yo, this kind of sounds like a gospel song, you know. Like when I first finished it, I was like, this is very urban contemporary, you know, motivational. But yeah, it was like, you know, I was going through some things, and we all were during this pandemic, and you know, being at home and not knowing where, you know, as musicians, like where our next stage is going to be or our next show. And, you know, like, and what got me through it was realizing that most importantly, that this wasn't just happening to me. You know what I mean? Like, yo, this is not just some dark cloud over my head. Like, yo, I had 2020 was about to be lit. You know what I'm saying? Man. Like, bro, like I was about to do a UK tour with Slum Village. Like, we were like really about to kill. And, you know, and I sat at home like, man, just my luck, you know, and it's like something stopped me to be like, it's not just your luck. Like, this is not something that just you're dealing with. It's not a black cloud over you. It's not just your bad luck. It's everybody's going through this. So now pick yourself up and let's move on, you know. So that's really what Keep On was about for me, was about going through the pandemic and trying to digging yourself up out of it. And I also wanted to make sure, and I'm very glad neither one of us said COVID on here. We didn't say pandemic. We didn't say quarantine. We didn't say wear a mask. You know what I mean? Like, we left those things where they need to be, which is in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, we see it every day. So I didn't necessarily want to create a project that would be kind of stuck in a time like that. You know, so there will always be struggles and hurdles to get over. And that's where, you know, the line about the blessing and all that is. It's like, the harder it is to me, like that's just a perspective to be like, oh, well, then the treasure is going to be extra nice because I'm really going through it right now. So it's just like, you got to stick with it and keep going, keep digging, keep scratching, and keep holding on. And that's where I was at on that one.
What gives you the motivation that the blessing is around the corner, like that realization to be like, you know what? It's tough. It may be rough right now, but I can sense this blessing coming. Like, where does that come from for you?
I think that comes from my faith growing up. You know, I'm still very spiritual. I think maybe not religious, but very spiritual. And I do believe in energy, and the energy you put out in this world will come back to you. And that's why I feel like, you know, I've been able to survive doing this, is because I don't do people dirty. I don't double cross people. I don't cheat. Like, you know, if it's somebody I'm working with, I make sure everything is very, you know, transparent and open and fair, you know, and I do believe that when you're good to people, that, you know, the universe is going to take care of you. You know what I'm saying? So I firmly believe that, like, the energy you put out is going to come back to you. It may not be when you expect it to or wanted to, but I firmly believe that. So, you know, like quitting my job without having nothing lined up. Like, I remember being scared to death. My last paycheck I'm picking up from the school, and I'm like, here we go. We got to make this work. 2 weeks later, I'm on tour, you know? So like, I just believe that it's going to work out. Like, you know, I ain't gonna just go walk in traffic like, you know, Frogger style and just be like, man, I'll be fine. But but I really firmly believe, man, that if you have good intentions and you do people right, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna be all right. And that gets me through life. Absolutely.
Good, man. Well said. You know, as you said about as you just referenced, leaving your job and then going on tour, it made me think about the type of, I guess, the type of money that comes, like the difference between the money of working like an hourly job versus the money of a tour, like, where you might get a lump sum up front. Like, how does that feel? Like when you go from, that 9 to 5 mindset that, clock in, clock out. I'm not saying that was the job that you had, but that hourly kind of depending check for check to getting like a lump sum, for a tour, or like what's how does that difference feel? Like when
oh man, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a big difference because I mean, if you're trying to create and work a 9 to 5 at the same time, it can be difficult because you can work so much that you come home and you don't feel like creating, right? If you go on tour and you make a big sum of money, you can come home and chill for a minute and just create, until the next time you gotta leave again. So it's like it definitely gives you like some breathing room to be able to create and not have to get up and go to work every day. You know what I mean?
how would y'all say y'all have been able to I would say maintain or even still be successful within this climate of the pandemic, where you guys can't really physically tour anymore? How has that manifested or worked out for y'all, where y'all can still, not have a day job, but and still, pursue your artistry or your dreams, or what you love to do? How has that worked out in this time?
I think
It's
you just go ahead, bro.
oh yeah, it's I think you got to trust your fans, you trust your gut, and I know a lot of artists who are just like begging and dying for shows to come back, like, yo, I need to get on stage. And I love the stage. I think it's where I shine the best, it's where I have the most fun. I love, meeting people, handshakes and hugs after a show, selling merch, whatever. Like, but I think it's just trusting your art and your ability to get you through, and cultivating your fans, like being like, hey, yo, if you rock with me, I'm gonna be over here. So you're on Twitch, you're on Patreon, you're on all these other things. You just got to create and add value to people's lives, and I think I've been lucky enough to do this. We've been doing a live stream show every Saturday for now, last Saturday of the month for a year now. Wow. With MC Lars, MC Front a Lot, Shit for the Dark Lord, and getting 150 plus people there that are paying tickets to see us, and we're just in my room in front of a green screen, so I'm very, very fortunate, that fans still want entertainment, and they're asking us like, yo, you're not going to just stop this when the pandemic's over, right? Like, we really love this. And so yeah, it's just like trusting your art, trusting your fans to support you, and being very honest with yourself and them, being like, hey, yo, if you love me, this is where I'm at. Like, you got to come through, you got to help me out. And we've been very fortunate. I think fans of like myself, of Noveliss, like, we've been very fortunate, to the point where, like, I lived on the road before this, and Nav did too. And to have been a year plus 14 months off the road and not like dying, you know what I mean? Like, yo, I got to get back on the stage. I ain't gonna pay my bills. Like, I've been very fortunate, where like things are still working out. But it just comes from, I think, years of consistency and just hopefully creating what people consider to be solid work. Yes. And, that's really what it is, being true to yourself and being true to the fans, and people know what to expect from you. But like, there's really no way to prepare for something like this, man. And I know that there's a ton of artists that are hurting, and I feel for them. But like, I always tell my friends, if I can, like, yo, create something that you stand by, you believe in. And sometimes you got to be very honest and ask the people exactly for what you want them to do. Like, hey, I need you to click this link. I need you to go to my Patreon, you know, and you know, just being very honest. And people like, man, I suck at self-promotion. And I'm like, well, get out the game, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, go to a law firm or something, or go sell insurance, because like the gone are the days where somebody's gonna go jump behind you and promote you, you know, and you know, all these things. Like, this is the DIY generation. So if you aren't ready to do it yourself, go take up knitting or something. I don't know, but yeah.
Word wisdom, man. Now, Mega, you have another line on the song "Bubblegum Crisis." I got so many quotables on this song, but I won't go through all of them here in this main interview. But yeah, Mega, you also say on that song, at the end of your verse, you say, "Man, growth is painful and changes too, but you got to be aware of what you change into." Why is it important to be aware of what you change into?
Well, there's like a classic saying where people be like, oh man, money turns people evil and this and that. It's the root of all evil. And like, not necessarily. Money just kind of makes you more of who you already were, you know, and now you just have more money to do these things with. So, you know, you might have been a bad person before that. And you know, and what I wanted to get at is, yeah, growth and change is a necessary part of life. And so people always say like, oh, this honestly is a very personal line, because a friend of mine, or a former friend of mine, decided at some point of his career that he didn't like need anybody, so he didn't necessarily want to like be associated with his friend group anymore, because he felt like he was about to get a really like dope elevation, and like that was going to change, you know, his life and his situation. And so he kind of stopped talking to everybody, and then it didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, well, see, like that's kind of what happens. That's what the universe will do to you if you're not humble, you know? And he was just like, yo, I gotta, you know, prepare for my season, you know, so I gotta cut off, you know, the caterpillar gotta grow, and you know, and we would mention a lot of things like that. And yeah, like change is a necessary part of life, but like you shouldn't change into like a dick. So that's really where it came from. It's like a personal situation that I had seen, you know, where I was like, man, like people think that you must grow and change to become a better person. And yeah, you got to elevate, but you can't like devolve, you know. So it's very important to watch the direction of where your change is going. So that's where that line's about.
Oh, I'm sorry about
that. You,
bro. No, I was gonna say, you know, thank you for breaking that down. I alluded to this earlier, you know, at the beginning of the show, you know, talking about, you know, you guys' interests, you know, and how you guys have fused anime and video games, right, into your music. And I was having the conversation the other day, you know, talking about this anime and video games, and how, you know, we're actually seeing these genres of entertainment being expressed in hip hop music from both MCs and producers, you know, today. Like we're seeing it a lot now, you know. And I remember when I was growing up in the 90s, although we watched cartoons and we played video games, those topics rarely showed up in like hip hop music, right? Like we talked about street stuff and hood stuff and, you know, relatable stuff as well. You know, everyday people relatable stuff. And I'm just, you know, when we think about hip hop, you know, hip hop has had a history even to today of, you know, music that just relates to experiences in reality, right? Like struggle, overcoming adversity, you know, and challenges, and a number of other everyday people relatable topics. How does anime and video games, when infused with hip hop, intertwine with some of that same relatable reality? Like how does anime come into that relatable reality world? Like,
well, I think that a lot of anime and video games as well, there are always lessons within them that can be applied to real life. You know what I mean? And you know, whether people find the message or they get it or they interpret it the way that it's supposed to be, you know, is up to the person that's consuming the, you know, the media. But I just think that you're able to take those things and apply them to life from an anime, from a video game, and that's kind of what we do, and we just do it with music. You know what I mean?
Dope. Yeah, man. I mean, you know, like I said, when I think back, I probably remember one kid in junior high school talking about Dragon Ball Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm talking about like mid 90s, like, you know, 96, you know, and then I didn't really hear of it now, but like now, like I see so many kids, that's what they're into, right? And I just think it's dope that it's transferred into hip hop, right? Like you said, Mega, like it's like hip hop wins again. Like you and you guys have a special place with that. Like y'all are contributing to that. You know, but I was just curious to know, like, you know, where the relatability happens.
It's been dope to see, man, with these younger kids, man. Like, I think it started happening. I gotta thank one of my favorite rappers of all time, Lupe Fiasco. You know, like we think about him creating, you know, kick push and combining skate culture with hip hop culture. And like, I think from then, you know, kids of that generation have been, it's all intertwined, you know, like the hip hop kids, the skate kids, the anime kids, you know, the wrestling kid, the Dragon Ball Z nerds, like they were all equally, you know, nerdy. And now these kids can like whatever they like, which is so dope.
Right,
like, man, I used to have to sneak, you know, my video game magazines to school on the bus, like hiding them, you know, like I would have had to buy a Playboy magazine and put it on the front of it or something, just to not get beat up. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it was different, you know. Now, like these kids can be whatever they want. They're so free, man. And I just love it, you know, and you hear it in the music, man. And like people started, it came from a point where people were messaging me like, yo, I heard Stone Cold's theme song in the middle of this JPEG Mafia song, you know, or something like that. Like whenever people heard this stuff that I liked in the music, they would hit me up about it. So then I was like, oh, well, let me check out JPEG Mafia. Like, turns out, big wrestling fan, you know, and like, so yeah, it's just been dope to see, man. Like now the cross like counterculture thing is just like the rules are out the window. You know what I'm saying? Like the kids that do the drill music about shooting your house up are into Dragon Ball Z. You know what I'm saying? Like I've literally heard Dragon Ball Z drill raps. Like it's I've heard nerd Griselda raps. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the styles, everything is just blurred, man. And it's awesome because I remember our generation was like stupid gatekeepers and stuff who was always like, nah, you can't be doing that. And so when I came up in Philly, at the time, it was if you didn't sound like Beanie Siegel or Freeway or State Property, like you just couldn't get on. Like nobody wanted to hear it. You know, you wasn't talking about the streets over some soul samples from Kanye or Just Blaze. Like that was it. Like that was the sound. And but now, man, there is no sound, which I think is just fire. You know what I mean? Like there's no rules, man. I love it.
It's part of the do-it-yourself, you know, culture that you spoke about earlier. Like it's just so much more freedom to just be yourself. You know, as much as hip hop has been criticized for a lot of rappers not being true to themselves, I feel like we're seeing that a lot more, and the you know, the opportunity to really do that and not get a lashback or get criticized is opening up a lot more. And you guys are kind of ahead of the game with that because you guys are speaking to what this generation that's coming up is really tapped into. Like, you know, animes and video games are huge, you know, now. So yeah, I'm glad that you expressed that. So let's talk about the single, which you currently have a video for. It's entitled Memory Card. On this song, you guys compare life to a video game, and you say never move on without a memory card. What would you say is the representation of the memory card in real life, and how do we benefit from it moving forward?
That's a great question.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think that I think a lot of times when we experience stuff, or um, when we experience like the highs, right? Not necessarily the lows, but just the highs of life. I think a lot of times, like a lot of people, we like to take pictures and we like to get video of it and we like to stream it and we like to, which is cool. I don't think there's a problem with that. But I think the problem is that sometimes we let that replace the actual feeling of being there, right? And I think that the memory card is like keeping our actual memories and remembering what it felt like to do those things, right? Like, I still like one of the best moments I've ever had is we I did a show. My group Clear So Forces, our first sold out show ever, was in Paris, and it was like ridiculous. And like I still remember what that felt like, right? That's my memory card. Now me getting it with my phone and kind of being caught up getting video and pictures and everything, and kind of that kind of manifesting itself as my feeling, when that's not my feeling. That's just through a phone or a camera, right? Like that's not real. I think it's just remembering what it felt like to be there. You know what I mean?
Indeed. You guys also say on the hook of this song, I think you say it a few times, adventure versus memory loss. Why'd you choose to highlight the two, and what is the significance of their rivalry?
Kind of piggybacking off of what I just said, adventure is remembering what it felt like to be there, and then memory loss, right? Like not remembering and just having the photographic evidence that it happened, but not really remembering what it felt like to be there.
Good. So I'm coming to the end. I just want to thank y'all for staying the course and staying long for the interview. I think I said an hour and a half. We're definitely past that now.
Oh, it's all good, man.
I appreciate y'all patience. So let's go to the last track. It's entitled Imposter Syndrome. Tell us, what is the imposter syndrome and how have you guys been able to work through it thus far? Whoever wants to go first. You're muted, Mega Ran. Oh, let me.
Yeah. So imposter syndrome is something I think every creator goes through, whether they know it or not. It's and I'd heard about it, reading about it over the past couple years, and I never really did a song about it, but it's just the idea of never feeling like your skill is at the level of someone else's that you see. Like anyone in any field, I'm sure has felt this. You could be running track and then you turn around and see somebody zipping around. You're like, wow, like I'm not as fast as they are. You draw something and then somebody's like drawing even better. And you're like, oh, I'm definitely not like as good as that person. And so imposter syndrome happens when you begin to feel adulation and get acclaim for that thing. Like people are like, yo, man, Out the Box TV is the best interview I've ever done. You know what I'm saying? And then somebody's like, they're showering you with praise. And then you're like, man, but am I as good as Vlad TV? By the way, you're better. But it's like, but you know what I'm saying? Like it starts to make you look at other people at their success and be like, do I really deserve this? Like, am I an imposter? And so it's something. And for me, writing the song, I was like, oh, I go through it every day as a rapper, but I didn't want to write about that because I mean, it's very clear. Anytime I get an award, anytime somebody ever does something cool for me, I'm always like, but am I like, are you going to suddenly wake up one day and take this away? You know what I'm saying? Like you changed your mind. Like, oh, okay. I knew it was a dream. I know. Here we go. I'm going back to my 9 to 5. I know. So like that's always in the back of my mind. Like this could go away at any second. And that's kind of why I feel like I grind so hard, because I just, I know that it took a lot of work to get it. So yeah, man, it's something every creative goes through, but I decided to go back to earlier times in my life where I didn't even know what that was at that time, but I had still been through those situations where I was drawing comic books with some friends, and I thought I was getting good, and my friends even said like, yo, you're good. And then I saw my friends' drawings. I'm like, but I'm not as good as him though. Like just beginning that self-deprecation and self-doubt, and just realizing that it's a big part of our lives, especially I think as African Americans, like we don't really talk about our mental health enough, and we're not always in a safe space to do that. So, you know, I thought that it was important to talk about that. So in his line, I say imposter syndrome, but then when you got my skin tone, you know, depression makes its inroads, you know. So just talking about how, like, combined with all the things we see every day as Black people, as humans, as creators, it just comes down on us so hard, and we don't necessarily always have a place to let it out and to talk about it. So I thought that was the perfect place to end the song. I mean, the album with. But even with that, my verse, I wanted to try to end with some positivity. So my last line is just about, you know, like, I'm an improvement, and every day trying to be better. And, you know, like, each day that we hear is a chance to do it better, you know. So yeah, it's that was important to me. Like, when I heard the beat, like, that was what I thought. And I'm glad, you know, Nav went along for the ride, you know, because it's a record that I really love a lot. A lot of people saying it's their favorite from the album.
Yeah, I had a lot of people that said they like that one too.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. Like, you know, I think between that, and what is it? The one that the Bubblegum Crisis, and the Clash of the Titans. Those are like my favorites.
Nice.
I might go back and listen and be like, oh, I got another favorite, you know. So, brothers, I just want to thank y'all so much for, again, taking the time. It was an absolute pleasure talking with y'all for this interview. I wish you all continued success in each of your careers. But before we go, can you give the people a glimpse of what might be in store next, you know, maybe for the rest of 2021? Because I know you guys are always working. Like, what do you guys have coming up? Even if it's not this year, maybe in the near future as well. Want to share any works that you guys coming up? You can unmute your mic, Meg.
Yeah, I mean, we got much more content for this record coming. We got a new video for Dear Summer that is coming very soon. Lyric video for Clash of the Titans, much more Maverick Hunters. Vinyl is coming with your help. Hopefully you will continue to pledge. We're at our 100%, but if you want a piece of this vinyl, you can go to Bandcamp. There's a pre-order pledge out there. So yeah, it's been doing great. I can't wait to get this into everybody's hands, and then hopefully get on the road and perform it for y'all.
Dope. And just for people that may not know, I mean, I know you just said Bandcamp. You want to give like your social media pages and any other websites that people can, you know, find y'all specifically?
Yeah, man. You can follow me on Instagram at Noveliss, NOVELISSCSF, and then you can follow me on Twitter at The Noveliss. That's THENOVELISS.
Go ahead, Mega.
Oh yeah, so I am at Mega Ran, MEGARAN. You can get me on megaran.com, megaranmusic.com for music, megaranmerch.com for merch, and I hang out on Twitch a few hours a day, twitch.tv/megaran.
Dope. And I just want to say to all of our viewers and listeners, remember to catch us on outtheboxmedia.com. That's our website, so you can get you know, just stay updated with all the new shows that we have, as well as the you know, previous shows we've put up. We've been doing, you know, interviews since 2008. And a lot of it is on that YouTube channel. But I want to say between last year and this year have been our most consistent years. So like I said, every Friday there's a new episode. Make sure you go to that website and, you know, support us in other ways. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. That is extremely important. And you know, if you like what you hear or you see, share it. You know, share it on your socials or tell a friend. You know, we could use as much views and support as possible. Again, to my guests, I thank you all again. Much success to you all. This Maverick Hunters project is awesome. I'm going to be listening more, and I'm looking to see what else you guys got coming, like with the videos and stuff. So yeah, continue success to y'all. Stay on the line. Don't leave just yet. I'm just gonna close out. But again, to all of our listeners, thank y'all. I want to wish y'all all the best. Stay safe, stay focused, stay healthy, be at peace, and stay in health. And we'll see you guys the next time we are out of here. Peace.